You've heard of the maiden trapped in a tower trope in fairy tales like Rapunzel, but did you know there's also a maiden trapped underground? Pretty much buried alive. We're going to be talking about those today. Eventually I'm going to talk about the Brothers Grimm Maid Maleen, which might be the most famous, but we're starting with my favorite, which is the Girl Clad in Mouse Skin, which is a Danish version and has girl power. It starts with a king whose country is besieged by war, and so to protect his daughter, he takes her and her little dog and buries them in a secret hidden room in the ground, in a mount or a mound, depending on the translation. He gives her provisions for 7 years, and he says, if I don't come for you in 7 years, assume I'm dead and just dig your way out. So the years go by, she occupies herself with lots of spinning and weaving, and she makes tons and tons of clothes. And about after 7 years go by, she is starting to run out of provisions. And so the dog catches mice, and she eats the mice, roasts them, and then uses all of their skin to make herself a cloak. I mean, she's already got plenty of clothes, but like, why not? What else are you gonna do with your time? So she gets out with her dog, but she doesn't want people to know who she is because, you know, she was hiding for a reason. So she puts the mouse cloak over her beautiful dresses so she looks poor and walks through the forest, comes out, finds the first house she can find and asks, hey, what's going on? She finds out her father is dead, that he succeeded in saving his country from invasion, but in the last battle he died. And they said, yeah, we know he had a daughter, but no one knows what happened to her. Who knows where she is? And she's like, yeah, who knows? This lord now lives at the castle and he's about to get married. And she's like, hey, do you guys know where I can get some work? And they're like, go up to the castle. I bet you can get work there because of the wedding. Following a trope that happens in lots of fairy tales, this princess pretends that she is a poor girl and goes and gets work in the king's kitchen. She always keeps her face hidden by the mouse hood, and she does really good at her job and everyone's like really impressed by her. Okay, here's where it gets really different though. So the day before the wedding, the bride who's gonna marry the new king leader of the country, she sends for our girl and she says, hey, we're the same height and we kind of have the same build and I want a favor. Turns out she does not want to marry this new lord because she's in love with this other guy she's betrothed her love to, but her parents are forcing her to marry this guy who wants to be with her man. So she doesn't have a plan how she's gonna get away and get to her man, but she knows she cannot marry the prince, and so she's like, will you go in my place? And our girl's like, yeah, I'll help you out. So they switch clothes and our girl goes with a bridal veil kind of covering her face. This new lord picks her up in a chariot, and on the way to church, they pass the place where she had remained hidden those 7 years. And she's so overwhelmed by triggered by the trauma that she says to herself under her breath, yonder stands yet every pin with every mouse's skin, where 7 long years I pined in sadness, and the dark mountain knew no gladness. And he's like, what'd you say? And she just goes, oh no, I was just talking to myself. They enter the church and it's a picture of her parents on both sides of the altar. And this is creepy and spooky. The faces turn their faces away. And she says, turn again, turn back again, dear pictures. And they do. And the prince missed all of this. And he's like, what? And she's like, oh, just talking to myself again. So they get married. He puts a ring on her finger and then they go home and she goes to change for the ball and switches places with the other girl. And she goes and dances with him. But when they're dancing, he's like, hey, you're not wearing the ring I put on your finger at church because our girl kept it. And so she's like, oh, I must have forgotten it. Let me go get it. So she rushes back to the girl who took her place, our girl, and she's like, hey, I need that ring. But she says, no, the ring I will not part with because it belongs to the hand that was given away at the altar. That's a rule breaker for her. So she's like, but bring him back here. I'll stand in the darkness and stick my hand out and we'll trick him that way. Trust me, it'll be fine. I like to think that she has fallen in love with this dude or just knows that this will work out for the best. So they get the prince to come, or the lord, whatever he is. She sticks her hand out in the darkness and she's like, see, it's me, your bride. But he's not being fooled. And so he grabs her hand and pulls her out and he sees, oh, it's the mouse skin girl who's wearing the ring. She's the one I married today. And she throws off the mouse skin and she's wearing her gorgeous dresses underneath and she's like, actually, I'm the lost princess, and tells the whole story. And they bring the whole court in and just everyone's astonished. There's joy and celebrating, and I love this part. They said everyone knew her father had fought so bravely for his country. They were all unanimous that the estate belonged to her. She doesn't even need to marry this dude to get the house that is rightly hers because she is next in line to inherit. And as if I could not love this girl anymore, it says she bestowed land and money upon the other bride that she might marry the man of her choice to whom she had secretly given her heart. So she's like, yeah, here, go be happy with your man. here's a good living for you too. You can be independent and do what you want like me. And so then they celebrate, and she stays married to our dude that she legally married, and she wants to be with him, and he wants to be with her, and everyone's happy at the end. It's one of my favorite fairy tales. The more famous version of this story, though it's still really obscure, is the Brothers Grimm Maid Maylene. And Maylene is kind of a interesting name. Most people think it's a shortening of, or that it comes from Magdalene, like Mary Magdalene. So in this one, Maylene is our princess, and her father entombs her not because of a war, but because she is in love with a dude and wants to marry him, and he doesn't approve of it. And it doesn't even say why he doesn't approve of it, he just doesn't. So because she refuses to obey her king father, he locks her up in this tower or mound. Sunlight can't reach it, just buried as punishment, with a serving maid who is put in there with her, but we never know her name. And he says, your punishment is to stay in here for 7 years. And even though she won't obey him with the prince, she obeys him in this. She and the girl stay in there for 7 years until they start to run out of food. And then they're like, we gotta break out. So they use a knife to pick their way out, and they break free of the tower, and they find out that because of war, the whole kingdom's gone now, and her dad is dead. I personally feel like it's kind of karma that his country got taken over and he got killed right after he did this horrible thing to his daughter. So they travel to another kingdom and get work in a royal kitchen for a different king. But this king is apparently the guy she wanted to marry in the first place that her dad wouldn't let her for some reason. Now again, he's supposed to be marrying some other girl, but this girl doesn't want to marry him just because she feels insecure about herself. She doesn't want to be seen by him yet. So she also switches places with Maylene on her wedding day. Instead of a ring, he puts a gold chain around her. Like a ring, it kind of represents like ownership. Like, I have marked you as mine. Here is your chain. Or you can look at it as a beautiful gift, however you want to look at it. After the wedding, the girl whose place Maylene took goes to him for the wedding night. Apparently she's okay with that. And he sees she's not wearing the necklace, and he's like, you're not the one I married today, are you? So he goes out searching for who he really married that day, and suddenly the princess gets super mad at Maylene, and she sends assassins to kill her. They take her out in the courtyard to cut her head off, but then she screams so loudly for help that the king's son hears her, and he runs out and sees she's got the gold necklace on. So he takes her back to his bedroom, and he's like, what's up? And she tells him the truth. She said that she was starving and stuck in that mound, but she says, however, the sun is shining on me once more today because I was married to thee in church, and I am thy lawful wife. So they kissed, he's in love with her, they were happy all the days of their life, and the false bride in this one gets her head cut off for trying to cut Maylene's head off. This one starts out promising as far as women helping women, because there's the maid who's imprisoned with her. They escape, they get out together, but she just kind of disappears once Maylene gets the job in the prison. And obviously there's no girl love with her in The False Bride. I'm gonna leave you with one more false bride fairy tale that is just bizarre. It's so fun. It's called Little Annie and the Goose Girl, not to be confused with the Goose Girl from the Brothers Grimm. This is a Norwegian story. Basically, there's this girl who herds geese, and she sees the prince, and she's like, I'm gonna marry you one day. And he's like, that is presumptuous of you. You can't say that. And she's like, well, I said it, so it's gonna be so. Well, he ends up marrying a princess from somewhere else, and he has this magic stone that he puts beside his bed. It's a stone that knows everything and will answer any questions, and it matters who steps on it. It will know all your secrets. So the new princess knows this, and she's got secrets, so she goes to the Goose Girl, and she's like, I need you to switch places with me on our wedding night and get into bed with him, and then once he falls asleep, I'll get in, because we can't have him hearing what that stone's gonna say. So when Annie the Goose Girl steps on the stone, he goes, Stone, who is that who steps into my bed? And it says, a maid pure and bright, like an untouched virgin. So during the night, they switch again, and in the morning, when the woman he married steps out, he goes, who steps on my stone? And it says, one that has had 3 bairns, meaning a girl who's given birth 3 times. So he's like, oh, you lied to me, you're not pure and untouched, which I'm sure he's not, but you know, sexism and double standards. So he just sends her packing, and the same thing happens again with the second girl, only this one's given birth to 6 kids. Happens a third time with someone who's given birth to 9 secret children. So the next time, the maid who gets into bed with him, he puts a ring on her finger that's so tight she can't get it off. And so the next day, after he gets rid of the one who's had 9, he goes and finds the Goose Girl, and she's trying to hide the ring with like a rag around her finger, but he can tell. He takes it off, and he's like, I married you. And he's like, you're clearly the one who's meant for me. And she gets the king's son after all, just like she predicted. Check out my book, Dust Spells, a reimagining of the 12 Dancing Princesses or Shoes That Were Danced to Pieces. Lots of girl power. I also have a podcast, Folktales and Fairy Lore, link in the bio.